Hey guys, we're back with another episode recapping Blue Lock. We just got our second episode the other day, and it is, I'd say, on par with the first one. We haven't hit a rut yet. That's a good sign. First two episodes have already like sunk their fangs in real deep. That's what I want to see. My name's James Graham. I'm joined by Andrew Nimsgren. We're gonna be breaking down episode 2 of Blue Lock. Andrew, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing phenomenal. I'm still obsessed. I love learning. There's so many good lore, so much good lore in this episode. The first one kind of had a good mix of introducing everything and then the match at the end. But this one pretty much was just building up Blue Lock because we had no information on it before. And now I love the world even more. We're going to be talking about the power system here in a second. I love the power system. It's so unique, and I cannot wait to dive into it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely they do a really good job of building it out without just like droning on with dialogue that's uninteresting. You know what I mean? I think it's this really nice blend of keeping you enticed, keeping some nice little action, but doing a really good job of building up the setting and really just making you feel like included, which is sick. That's always awesome. So yeah, no. That being said, though, guys, I'm gonna break down the recap really fast. I'll go through it, and then myself and Andrew are gonna share our points and what we really liked about this episode. So we begin with Thierry Henry. She's the newest member of the Japan Football Union. And she basically breaks down that the state of soccer in Japan is less than satisfactory. Yeah, they broke into the top 16, but they're going to have to do some really rebuilding to break in past that. She basically puts all her stock in Ego, and then we pan over to, of course, Ego. Ego's explaining to Kira, who just got boot fucked in the face the last episode, how tag is a great game to warm up playing soccer, and how Isagi and Bakiara basically took advantage of the situation where Kira let it tick down to the last second, did nothing about it. He then gets the boot, and then we go into basically a training montage. It's really quick and easy, but it's not like a shitty training montage. We get a nice showcase of all the characters who are on in Isagi's room as well. And you actually see that Saki's not actually the top of the food chain in any. He settles at his rank pretty good. That being said, though, unable to sleep and really realizing how bottom of the food chain he is, he's like, all right, I gotta go train. So he gets up and he runs into, of course, Bakiara, this weird fucking dude that he's already bonded with. The two of them start actually training together. Bakiara is like basically his boy already. But we find out that he might be a bit of a schizophrenic, and he basically plays soccer with a monster. And he sees that same monster in Asagi. His monster told him to basically pass the ball to Asagi, and that's how he got Kira out. That being said, though, cutting back, Ego addresses the group explaining that they're going to be basically doing a roster system and how everybody had an individual get eliminated from that game of tag, and this leaves them to a number of 11 players left in each room. Then now these guys are going to be playing in a round robin. For what stakes, we don't really know, but we know that each team is broken up into the 11 players, and we've settled on Team Z, which is Asagi's team. We cut back to a new character that's introduced, Toshi Sai, who is considered the new generation's elite 11 heroes. We're only assuming this means he's the upper echelon of a soccer player, but he basically criticizes the quality of soccer in Japan, saying that if he wanted to play with the equivalent of Japan's best, he would go play with some college kids in Germany. So does obviously not think highly of his home country. That being said, though, while he's kind of being like walked around and escorted out of this like conference room area sort of thing, he gets grabbed the attention of again Henry, who's making a public address explaining the Blue Lock system and why they need to do what they're doing. Basically, not abducting kids, but basically potentially ruining their soccer careers and taking them into this Blue Lock system. Itoshi's definitely down for this. He wants to see what this produces. And the episode ends with us cutting back to our players, and they're doing this really nice thing where they're playing the credits and they're having a scene, like an actual scene happen as well, with Team Z walking onto the arena and squaring off against another team. I don't think we know what team they're squaring up against, but
I want to say it was a V or Y. I think they did say one of like here they come from Team Y or whatever it was.
I think it's probably Team Y. Given that they're Z, it makes sense that it would be Team Y. And my personal favorite character got a nice little snippet. You get to see him. I'm not going to bring him up too much because I'm sure he's going to get enough spotlight. But Andrew, what do you think of this episode?
I mean, the first thing that stood out, just of the recap, is new generation elite 11 heroes. Sounds like the next Power Rangers, not a
I
group of people
know.
that play soccer. Is like, I guess the 11 makes sense, 7 people on the field and all that kind of stuff. But that name is just so extra when it's Blue Lock, Lockout. Like, I feel like everything else in the show is pretty to the point outside of when they're explaining what's kind of going on. But it just was a total opposite. I just kind of laughed when I heard it because I'm like, this is just ridiculous. Like, you just put a bunch of words together and put a title on it. But
This, yeah. Yeah, I
it's
know.
super interesting that they're kind of introducing another kind of power system outside of the Blue Lock, which obviously this is supposed to go up to World Cup, so I think it gives you a lot more opportunities. Like, okay, so now we know that not only is Asagi reaching to be top 11 or number one here at the Blue Lock, so that they can make the under 20, but now there's also going to be this potential system afterwards that he either has to compete against or possibly get into. So, I like again, they're building the world, they're building the long term stuff while still explaining what's going on in this episode.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool that they are addressing the fact that the world doesn't stop moving around them, and that there are these other big players who have like gone through the conventional system, and they're considered again the upper echelon of soccer players, right? And yeah, he's just kind of there. He's just a dude who's really like, and that's it. And the title, oh my god, it reminds me of Kirk on a Basket, where they would say "Generation of Miracles" like I don't know
Yep.
how many times
Every
in an
time they
episode.
could.
Yeah, exactly, right. And this is just like let's take that and let's turn that up to 11. The next thing that this new team system that they've kind of implemented really drives home is that despite the fact that Asagi is the sole reason that Kira is knocked out, or not maybe not the sole reason, but he is the one who facilitated it. Our boy didn't move a rank. He's still complete trash. So I guess maybe the game of tag didn't count towards the ranking system, but like he's still very much bottom on the barrel. And actually nobody else really moves. So maybe the game of tag was just like elimination and that's it. But I think introducing that there is this like many more teams really shows that we can call him our protagonist at this point. We know he's our boy. He's not as good as anybody else. Like he is trash.
Yeah, I just love the introduction of the power system here too, because I think when you hear 300 people, then 25 people are cut out and stuff like that, I'll get okay, we're gonna go through this pretty quickly, and he's gonna get up to the kind of middle of the top of the pack pretty quickly. But when you hear that, nope, he's surrounded by the worst players, he's kind of designated this, and I agree. I don't think anyone really kind of moved after that one because it's weird that all 11 people on the team didn't move. Because if one of them even would have moved up one spot, theoretically they would have been moved to Team Y. So I agree that I don't think anyone moved there, but I just think the whole introduction of the power system here is awesome, and I think they've done such a great job of making it feel like already how big of a climb that he has to go to kind of get there. I think a lot of times goals seem so kind of achievable. A lot of the times, like even with
Yeah.
Naruto, I want to think of like, oh, I want to be Hokage. Like, great, you can become kind of powerful. You like a lot of people like you. Like that kind of seems more achievable, but like this already feels like a bigger deal for Asagi to get through 100 and 273 people than Naruto to become Hokage. Just because
Yeah.
like now we learn like he gets worse food, so worse supplements. He has worse training facilities. He has worse beds. Like he's literally at a disadvantage in every single way, which we didn't know coming into that. Which I love that we didn't know until now. I love that we didn't see everyone's rank and kind of put it together ourselves that they were the bottom 11. Like I loved how they are holding back information and giving it to us as we kind of need it because it's
Yeah.
making it feel like more monumental. So when something happens or when downfalls kind of happen, it's like, oh, well, they're kind of at a disadvantage, and you kind of see that play out in the story, or when they beat Team V or whatever the highest will be in the bracket. Like, no, that's
Yeah.
a big deal. That's 55 people higher than they can go now. So phenomenal power system. One of my favorites I've really kind of seen in sports. Like, I know a lot of sports don't necessarily have power systems. It's generally which team's better than the other, but I
Mhm.
love it, and it makes it feel like progression is really meaningful.
Yeah, I think you kind of brought up a good point there, where it is a unconventional sports anime in the fact that you're not competing for an individual team or like an individual school, and you're not trying to work through like a very fleshed out system that everybody's really well aware of, right? This is its own isolated thing, and you're basically like skipping all those traditional routes that every other sports anime does. You don't usually see like this kind of ranking system really anywhere else because they just talk about, oh well, they're really, they always crush it at nationals, or they always make it through the qualifier, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's super sick that way. And I want to talk about like the magnitude that you really kind of drove home about Asagi being so near the bottom. You're not unfamiliar with like both sports anime and shonens. Do you think he becomes like the player he wants to be, the best striker in the world at like episode 2? Does this seem like a story that is going to let that happen?
No, and then that's what I kind of love about it. And that's what I kind of mean that I feel like every little thing feels like it's going to be earned, and I also feel like it sets up that there could be a lot of setbacks early on, and then he still can kind of come around and get lucky and get through things here and there too. So no, it doesn't feel like a way of where he's not amazing like Kanata is pretty much. He's like not a diamond in the rough necessarily. Everyone's here a diamond in the rough. Everyone here can become the next Kanata, and kind of knowing that and not even having any idea of what the gap between number 1 and 275 is. We have no idea yet, because even next episode, it's going to be a crazy animation. It's going to be a super close match. It's going to be super crazy. And these are the 22 worst players in the entire thing. And it's going to be like, oh, wow, like number 260 is so much better than me. And then I'm like, nah, bro, like you don't know anything. And I love that idea that it could be half a season before we see anyone in the top 100. Like it could be playing only the bottom half. And then it's kind of like the jump from original Naruto to Shippuden, where everything's just a power jump. He's like, oh nope, you cracked the top 100 now, and like you have to relearn everything. I love a lot of that kind of ideas.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes the scope and like the longevity of the anime seem like it seems like it's got some substance behind it, right? Like the chances of him going against anywhere in that top 100, like anytime soon, seems like it just seems impossible, right? He's too low ranked. The system is working to his disadvantage. I think that's it adds to it.
And they're already introducing things outside of this. So there could be 3 seasons of making it through Blue Lock, all amazing. And then like, oh no, here's his experiences with the World Cup team. Like, oh, they lost in the World Cups. Now here's his chance to try to get into the top 11. Like they've already started setting up things outside of that. So like, it doesn't feel like being number 1 in Blue Lock is end all be all. Like in My Hero, number 1 hero, great. Dude, you can't really go anywhere from here. Like, no, being number 1 in Blue Lock still doesn't mean anything at the world level, which I love. Because again, it just keeps setting up bigger and bigger goals, which sometimes I feel like animes kind of run out of outside of just being the best. Like, no, being the best here isn't the end all be all, and I love that.
Yeah, and this is episode 2. Like you are having those ideas from episode 2, which to me is just such a good sign. It's such a good sign of good execution, which is great. You briefly brought up the point of them like next episode basically being what we assume is just going to be entirely a soccer match, right? Ego really talked about how he's like looking to reinvent the wheel. I'm not an avid soccer player by any means. I'm not too sure if you are either. What do you think 11 strikers looks like on a team?
Chaos. And I think that's kind of why he's throwing it in so much. That it's literally maybe not day 2, maybe day 3. I think they did like all their training on one day. And it's like, nope, no time to get used to it. No time to really feel the differences. You just jump right into it and reinventing the game of soccer from zero. I love that kind of the concept and just seeing kind of what's happening. And I think it just makes for more animation. Everyone going on, everyone being on the attack all the time. I think there's going to set up for really entertaining things to watch. Because again, if you're just kind of playing soccer, there's more strategy of holding the ball and all that kind of stuff. Like, nope, this is clearly everyone's here just to score. It makes it so much more fun, but it's going to be so chaotic. I think for the first 4 or 5 matches, and things will probably settle in after that, but that's okay. I'd love to change of pace after 3 matches of it being pure chaos.
Yeah, exactly right. And you got to think too that like, these guys don't even know their teammates, right? Like they like Asagi's not only introduced himself to like one person, right? So
there's only been one pass between anyone on this team, and that was from Buck. And then that first one. So like that's crazy. That nope, now you just gotta go play. Like you did training exercises, you've done one pass as a team, and now you just go and play. Like that's wild.
It's gonna be sick, man. It's gonna make for a really good episode. So that being said, though, I want to wrap up kind of what we're doing here, and I want to move into the segment that you introduced our first episode, which I'm just gonna it's a working title. I'm gonna call it the winners and losers of each episode. So who is your winner and who is your loser? Who goes up a rank? Who goes down a rank in your eyes?
I want to lead with Asagi going down in my rankings. I think it's just so devastating of being the actual difference maker in the first game and not having that make any kind of difference. Like they didn't necessarily say it. I don't feel like Ego would not allow rankings to change if they deserve to be changed. So I think that's definitely something that could have happened, but maybe they just didn't want to explain it or something like that. I don't know, whatever anime logic, but I think that's definitely shitty that even though he kind of had that moment, he didn't go up at all. And then Bakira being my winner this week. Like you kind of talk about schizo, like I don't agree with that at all. That reminds me so much of like In the Zone from Kiriko no Basta and stuff like that. Like no, this man literally has a different being inside of him dedicated purely to soccer. That is incredible. hearing something like that might happen with Asagi too. I love it. I love this kind of, this is like the internal system that I'm sure we'll see a lot more people having monsters. Asaki will lock his next episode, and then from here on out, like, no, like that dude's different. He has a monster in it. Like that could be a recurring theme. Love that. Love another power system.
Love that. No, that's great. That's awesome. I gotta give my loser to Asagi as well, because again, like he had this like absolutely devastating game-winning kick, or like I mean they're playing tag, but like we'll call it a game-winning kick. Um, and yeah, it really equated to nothing. And then again, you go through that training montage of seeing him how much lower he is in comparison to everybody else, just physically, right? Just like physically alone. Like you saw Raichi, you saw Kuon, like, and then we've already seen oh my god, Kanagami. Like, I mean, he is like very much like uncomparable to these guys at this point. So it's gonna be really cool to see like what he does down the road. But as of right now, my boy's taking an L. That being said, though, my winner is actually somebody who's not in the Blue Lock system, and it's gonna be Itoshi Sai, just because most of our episode was talking about what the implication of that character being introduced did to the anime and did to the world. And I think that is sick that you have a character that you really know next to nothing about, but he just facilitated that much conversation and opened up the world that much more. I think that's so cool. That's such a nice idea. And to introduce him so early is like, it's good writing.
Yeah, I can't argue with that at all. But I think those are all great kind of picks there. And kind of going back to the name in progress kind of thing. If anyone in the comments or on Twitter or anything like that, you have recommendations, we'd love to hear them. We're kind of going through this. Obviously, something we kind of pitched on a whim last week, and kind of going forward, I think we really like it. But we are looking for name recommendations if you have them, so we would appreciate those down below.
For the love of God, help us out. We're creative sometimes, but not that creative. But that being said, though, that's gonna wrap us up here. You can catch everything we do at the Class 1A on YouTube. So it's just YouTube/Class 1A. And we're also on Twitter at Class 1A Pod, and that's where we're at, I believe, on every other podcast platform. Well, if you do want to check us out there, we this is all entirely on YouTube, but we do My Hero and Demon Slayer podcasts, so feel free to check them out there. That being said, though, that's it for us, guys. We'll see you all next week.
Thank you.